We will get started with our regular for the month of April for the Nampa School District. And we will start this meeting by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will welcome the guests we have now, and we will welcome anybody else for our regular session when we come back after our executive session. And we will now do the mission and the vision. The mission of the Nampa School District is to ensure high levels of achievement for every student. And the vision, every student is fully engaged in extraordinary learning experiences, preparing for a successful transition to the next stage of life. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And we will be getting, is she there? Okay. Trustee Taylor is going to be on the phone remotely for us to get us into executive session. And then Trustee Benz will be here momentarily as well. So as soon as I have confirmation. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move us into executive session.
I move we enter into executive session per Idaho Code 74-206 1B, D, F, and J.
Second.
Yep,
I second the motion.
Yep, she'll read through the details and then we can second the motion.
Chair Bennings? Chair Jennings?
Aye.
Trustee Behrens?
Aye.
Trustee Salinas?
Aye.
Okay.
Do you want me to read through the bullets or?
No. We can wait.
Chair Bennings, just 1 second.
Okay. We're just waiting to get one of our other trustees on the phone so that we can go into executive session.
Hi, Stephanie. I just need to see if you will help us get into executive session. Okay, no problem. If you can just, I'm just gonna ask you if you are in favor of us going into executive session. If you say yes, we can go in.
Okay. Very good.
Perfect.
Okay.
We will see you in a minute.
We have 4 of us. Say aye.
Thanks.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So we roll call vote.
Yes.
Did you get Kurt's?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have Trustee Taylor on the phone. Trustee Taylor, are you in favor of us entering into executive session? Yeah. Thank you.
We're 5 for 5. So we'll move into executive session.
Okay, we'll go
will
in there.
return at 6 p.m. 6 o'clock. We're going to continue on with our regular scheduled board meeting. I'd like to welcome the guests that have joined us since we've been in executive session. And so we will move right into our spotlight. Dr. Russell.
Yeah, trustees, this evening we have an opportunity to recognize one of our successful schools. We're actually really proud of this. I don't know if Mr. LeBou, did you want to come up and start, or you just want me to go ahead and?
Go ahead.
Okay. Columbia High School had been recognized recently as one of the top 30 high schools in the Intermountain West. And we have Mr. Wilson here and a couple of our students from Columbia High to kind of talk about this honor. It is, to my knowledge, in the 20 plus years in the Napa School District, the first time any one of our schools has actually been recognized by another entity. And I think it was recognized for the culture, as well as some of the academic achievements and successes they've had there. So Mr. Wilson, thank you for being here, and I really appreciate you guys coming tonight.
Thank you. We are so grateful, sincerely grateful to be here. Thank you, Dr. Russell. Trustees, thank you. At Columbia High School, we have some things going on, but that's going on at every high school. So we feel special and grateful. Here with me, I have some giants, or among giants. In our school, we have 2 student bodies. You may know we have a STEM Academy, and then our entire student body. Jet Hit happens to be in the presidency for our ASB, so our whole school. And then Lucy Preby, she happens to be in the presidency for our STEM Academy. So they're leaders, but they're also very involved and have had a journey. They're seniors this year, so they're going to talk to you and tell you the real story. Before we do that, though, there was a video made by Matt, and so we'd like to just share that video with you. Briefly explains what happened, the recognition. So.
Columbia High School recently received an enormous honor after being named as a top 30 school in the Rocky Mountain region, something Principal Corey Wolstenhume is humbly proud of.
What I know, because I've been in this school for many years now, is that everyone is doing good work. Everyone is. And so for us to be singled out in a way that's positive, and then recognizing that there are so many schools right around us that are doing great things. I don't know that we stand out significantly in any certain way more than others, other than I think we have a whole package, so to speak. And so what it means to me is that it's validating of those things that we're doing day to day like everyone else, and seen as a place to come, a destination location if you're looking at the Treasure Valley. So that was very honoring. It's not every day that things like this come to educators or education. So it's great.
The list was compiled by MoneyInc.com, an online news portal that focuses on finance, business, and more. It spans across 5 different states and is based on academic performance, college preparation, and educational excellence.
In our years here, we've watched our graduation rate grow. We're going to have our highest rate this year. We have a huge community of people who are working with a common goal. And that goal is about growing successful kids in all aspects, positive contributors to our society. And they need to be educated, they need to be good people. And when I think about that being recognized in what is in that ranking of positive culture for kids focused on respect, integrity, and positivity, and staff. We really have put that first in our work with our teachers to build collegiality and just respect them and honor them where they're at with our check-ins through difficult times to get to where we're at today. When I see that being recognized, it just says things are going up.
It's a culmination of Columbia's Wildcat Way, a trio of pillars to live by created 12 years ago.
There was a top 10 list of things industry's looking for, and someone who's graduated from high school and going on to college. And so we actually surveyed that of our entire staff and also student body, like which one of these is the most important. And so positivity, integrity, and respect. And positivity happened to be number 1. In higher ed, and then also those that are in the industry that we're looking for. And so those were the 3 pillars that became part of the Wildcat Way.
They hope the Wildcat Way will stick with our students into adulthood.
We're just all here to be a wildcat and to be better as humans. That's a really big message that I think our kids need in today's environment. And it's stripping away all the things that are outside to just get to be a kid and get better in any avenue that fits you. That's pretty special. And our kids recognize that.
And as we say congratulations to Columbia for landing on such a prestigious list, we learn what the main ingredient is that fuels the Wildcat Way.
Care. We care for them, and they have the opportunity to feel what that feels like for them, and everyone's different. Because when you treat somebody that way, when you treat them as if they're amazing, that they deserve the most respect, positivity from you, and then they begin to reflect that. As one buys in, then another kid sees like, oh, maybe it is cool, right? And then it becomes something.
Gonna hear from Jet and then Lucy. Oh, sorry, on your left.
Hi, my name's Jet Hitt. I'm the vice president at Columbia. I've been through a lot of the schools. I originally started out at New Horizons, and then I went to Ronald Reagan, and then Legacy Charter, and then I went to Liberty Charter, and then I transferred in halfway through my freshman year. When I think about Columbia, when I was going through my head and trying to figure out what sets us different, the one word I kept coming back to every time was caring. I would say, I think it started with our football and our sports. It started with those. We started caring about our team, and it was just no one left any trash or anything. It was caring was the biggest thing that was on our focus this year, and I think it really paid off. I can't go throughout the halls and leave trash. I'll have 5 people come up to me and be, hey, you gonna pick that up? You know, there's a trash can right there, right? Go throw it away. And when Mr. Olstrom took it right out of my mouth. When you treat people with caring, they start to reflect it more. And it started with the teachers. They showed us caring, and you can see it in our academics. A couple years ago, it wasn't as high, and the more they kind of cared for us and made us focus on it more, the more our academics grew. And I think that also implemented how well our social construct is. I can't go without the halls without people I've never met before come up and ask me, hey, Jet, how are you doing? And yeah, I've met so many people through the school, and I'm just internally grateful for being here.
Awesome.
I'm Lucy. I'm the STEM Academy president, and I've only ever gone to one high school. I've always gone to Columbia, and that's been pretty lucky for me. Columbia doesn't only have excellent extracurriculars and excellent academics, but it has the support and the staff to back it up and to make those accomplishments feel like they mean something. Whether it's the teachers or the admin or the support staff, it always feels like when you're learning, like it really matters. Like I could have the worst day at home, but when I'm actually getting to school, they've built an environment that during the 60 minutes where I'm in Miss Katie's room, I'm going to care about AP Lit, or the 60 minutes I'm in Mr. Doring's room, I'm going to care about AP Gov. And I think that's consistent throughout the school, where they built a culture where it's possible to care about your academics because you're able to feel comfortable and you're able to feel safe and cared about. And not only does that help you in the classroom, but it exceeds just the classroom when it comes to, at the end of the year, award shows, when you're recognized for when a math student of the year and an English student of the year, and all of our subjects are awarded a student of the year, where somebody who maybe doesn't even have the best grades in that class, but has consistently worked hard in that class, is rewarded for the work they've done. And those awards mean a lot to the people who receive them. And I think that's one of the many amazing things Columbia does, is make you feel like you're learning for a reason and then reward you when you do. We also do state walks every time a team makes it to state. The whole school lines the hallway and you walk down with some music going and you go into the spirit stick, and it's like, yeah, okay, the whole school actually cares about this. And it really does build this culture of support that makes success in learning and in extracurriculars and in your entire life possible. Like in the video, it talks about building like readiness after college. And that absolutely is true. Like I think Columbia really has prepared for both the time in high school and life and work and college after. Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy.
Very good.
We'll stand for any questions if you have any.
Yeah, I just want to, this guy, did you check his transcripts? Is he not 25? I mean, my word, what a man we've got here.
He's a football
So,
player.
yeah. But no, I've
Originally
actually,
a swim team player.
Swim team?
8 years.
I bet you're moving down the water there.
Yeah.
But no, I've had the opportunity to join you guys in your halls on more than one occasion, and you can just feel the environment there is quite remarkable. And you guys are really, really blessed to have such great staff and admin, and experience overall in high school as Columbia offers. So I commend you, and you guys should feel blessed.
Thank you.
Trustees, any comments, questions you might have?
Well, I can't let this one go by without saying something. I have spent hundreds of hours at Columbia, and they don't come better than Mr. Wilson-Hume. And everything that these three have said is so true. The caring, I see that all the time. And congratulations. Very well deserved.
And we are grateful for your thousands and thousands of hours.
Very good.
And a quick question for both of you. You said you're both seniors, juniors, seniors. Okay. Where are you going next year? What are your plans after you graduate?
This summer I'm going to go wildland firefighting, and then I plan on going up to NIC to get my associates in electrical engineering, then transfer to U of I to get my bachelor's.
Very nice.
Very cool.
I'm going to Whitman College in Walla Walla to get a degree in biochemistry, biophysics, and molecular biology to then transfer to finish up a biomedical engineering degree.
Wow.
Nice. Nice.
Very
Nice
impressive.
job.
Very impressive.
Yeah, be careful when you go to Walla Walla. You never want to leave. So
New home up there. So
yeah.
okay,
Congratulations.
very
yeah.
good. Yes, thank you so much, and congratulations to Columbia and all the staff.
Thank you.
As they exit, we will be moving into our comment section. For those of you in the crowd who would like to have some public comment tonight, there is a sign-up sheet out here. We will call your names up individually as we go, but we will start first with trustee comments. And I will start down on this end. Nothing? Okay.
I had the pleasure of going to school visits. Went to Skyview, South, and Lake Ridge. It was good, the 1st of April. And I'm excited we had our STEM lottery, which is good. And I know they're starting to build that team. So it's exciting to hear how that's going. So.
Trustee Salinas, anything?
No comments. Here.
Okay. And my only comment is it was brought to my attention, we have 21 days of school left. It is flying by rather quickly. So we will have Clerk Lamont go see if we have anybody for public comment. Okay, you bet. Okay, we have one. Miss Veronica Wolf.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. Real quickly, a couple of things. You'll have 3 minutes. You'll see it on the screen there. Feel free to talk about any topic you want. Once the time is up, we ask that you finish up and we'll move on from there. When you start, please state your name and your address or zone if you know which trustee zone you're in. So time is yours.
Name's Sam Wolf. My address is 411 South Happy Valley Road. You saw my property on the beginning of that video. So we own the barn venue right next to Columbia High School. So good neighbors of them. But that is part of our concerns. Why we're here tonight is to talk about an issue we've been having with the use of the field. And it's been a very new issue since the fields were redone in Nampa, all of them. And we were kind of we kind of found out today that there's like a website basically you can go to and just rent out all these fields. And that it's just open to the public to go in and rent it. But we've had a company or whatever, they're holding adult football contact games at that field. And they've chosen Columbia to be like their home thing. So they have 3 games and they do it every Saturday, March through April. It's a very loud event and it happens all day long. Us being a wedding venue, obviously that's a big conflict. It's destroying our ability to operate our business purely so that someone else can operate theirs. So happy that they can do that and have that. I would just like it to be in a different place, or if we could have some type of rules mitigating when, how often, there's also a very large neighborhood on the back side of us. We also do live on the property. So even without the business, having a concert every Saturday in your backyard is just too much. When we started, we knew there was a school, totally fine with that. School's been a great, to work with, very friendly. But we understood, there'll be certain things. We understood what days those would be. We understood that, there's going to be football games here, totally fine. But now it's not the school. It's just anyone can lease the field at any time, and there doesn't seem to be any type of rules on, hey, well, this is a Sunday. Do we need to go late? I mean, can we just limit the amount of hours they can be there? Maybe they don't have access to the whole sound systems that are very loud, on weekends. So we could just protect some of our peace, and not every event that, I know the school does this for lots of different events. Lots of things we can't tell that are going on there, but the football field, just because of how it's positioned and the system that they put in there, it's very loud, and it's almost impossible not to have it interfere everything around it. So just like you guys to consider that, I think I have a call in with your office, but it's all kind of escalating now, but
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Veronica Wolf, would you like to add some comments? Same thing, just state your name and your zone or your address, and you'll have your 3 minutes as well.
Thank you. Veronica Wolf. Address is also 411 South Happy Valley Road, right next to the school. I am also a partner at the White Barn. I am a Nampa graduate, Nampa School District from Nampa High. Love the community. I think just to go along with the, the video, this has been our dream. We've put our lives into this property, and having it kind of shut down because of this is just hard. I feel like we have gone to several people at the school. We've brought this up. We don't really feel like our concerns are being heard. We've had school events at our property for free. We've been in business for over 10 years. So it just is really impacting us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, does Mr. Wolf need to sign out on the sheet, or do we just have him for the record? Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, thank you too. Okay, we will be moving on, and I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Good, okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so moved. And then we will move on to our action items for the night. Dr. Russell?
Yeah, Chair Jones, trustees, our first action item of the night has to do with Union High School, and we have Principal McNamara here to share some information around the Union High's calendar, and happy to answer any questions you may have for that.
I'm a little shorter than everybody else. So we have the ability to design our own calendar based on the innovative agreement that we have with the district. So we went ahead and we designed our own calendar, and we're proposing that in the first trimester, we have home visits, September 30th in the evening and October 1st during the day. For those board members that don't know, previous to us moving to West Learning Campus, we would do home visits the first week of school. We had students in for a half day, and then we would go and do home visits. That's really important for our school to build that community. We have advisors go into the home to meet with parents and the students to just build that community and build, like going on what Columbia said, build that caring community for our students and our parents. And so we would like to propose that our home visits happen on September 30th and October 1st, which is the same day that we have the evening when the rest of the district is doing parent-teacher conferences. We would like to utilize that for our home visits because we weren't able to get a busing schedule because of the way that we do our transfer buses. We're not able to do home visits that first week of school like we used to previously because we share West Learning Campus with Napa Academy, and we're not able to have a different busing schedule. Our first trimester exhibitions, we do exhibitions to celebrate our learning and to share our learning with our community and with our parents. So our first trimester exhibitions, we would like to have them on November 4th and 5th. And then the comp day for that would be September 11th. For second trimester, we do senior exhibitions because we have a lot of our seniors that do complete in second trimester. So we would have our senior exhibitions. And then we also have these crucial conversations with students who might need a little bit of motivation to get things done and completed on time for second trimester on February 11th. And then we also do a mentor dinner. So for those of you that don't know, our high school students go out into the community and work with mentors in the community. And we have a mentor dinner to celebrate these mentors on April 22nd. And the comp day for that would be January 22nd. For exhibitions for second trimester, we would have February 24th and 25th. And our comp day for that would be February 19th. And then third trimester exhibitions would be May 24th and 25th, and our comp day would be May 14th.
Okay. Very detailed. Trustees, any questions? You got off easy. I guess I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the 2026-2027 school calendar for Union Alternative School as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, we'll move on. Dr. Russell?
Yeah, Chair Jennings, trustees, next item has to do with Mr. LeBou is going to come and share some information around Parchment, which is the software that we use to produce transcripts for students and former students. So, Mr. LeBou.
Chair Jennings, trustees, Dr. Russell, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Parchment. In my role as Director of Secondary Education, one of the things that I learned early on was the way that we were navigating transcripts was not necessarily highly reliable. And to that end, working with Mallory Essman, our college and career counselor coordinator, we came across Parchment, and Parchment allows us and really allows community and students to access transcripts in a much more efficient and I guess cost-effective way, especially in terms of the resource. So unfortunately, Parchment, not unlike most other things, we're experiencing a little bit of a fee increase. That, coupled with the fact that our enrollment's declining a little bit, and some uncertainty around college and career funds, which we have used to offset the cost of Parchment, I'm coming forward to ask for an increase in the fees that we charge, not our students, because students will have access to their transcripts for free. Unlimited copies for free until August of the year that they graduate. That doesn't change at all. One of the things, though, that we need to do to be a responsible steward of the monies that we're entrusted to is to help to mitigate some of the increase of this cost. And in talking specifically with Parchment, what we learned is the fees that we're charging for people who previously worked with, went through our system, who need transcripts, and corporations who are seeking this information. According to Parchment, we were leaving a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, in terms of the fees that we were charging. And so while the fee increases that we're seeking seem to be fairly significant, they are in line with what most other districts are charging for these things. So our request to you is to help us offset some of our expense by increasing the fees that we charge for alumni students and for corporate transcripts.
Okay. Trustees, any questions? Mr. Blue? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve increasing the alumni transcript fees from $5 to $10 and corporate transcript fees from $15 to $40.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Lebu. We will move on to item C, gradient learning curriculum adoption. Dr. Russell?
Yep, Chair Jennings, trustees, next on our agenda has to do with our gradient curriculum adoption. We're going to have Director Gomez come forward and share some information around that process, and also a couple of our curriculum adoption team who have been the ones on the grounds on the boots on the ground, kind of give you some more information about that.
Okay. All right. Good evening, trustees. I'm here to talk about the middle school curriculum adoption that just concluded a couple of weeks ago. This evening, we're looking at math and science. Next month, we'll be coming to share information about ELA. They just wrapped the second week of April, and so we're still working on preparing that one. If you'll recall that we were vetting resources because of the partnership that will begin next year with Gradient Learning in our middle schools. And so they offer lower cost curriculum options for us. And so we're vetting them for suitability, use within our district, alignment to standards, et cetera. Okay. So for our math and science committee, we had 1 administrator, 7 parent community members, and 6 teachers that participated. The process that we follow is that we review standards and readings to help build their background knowledge. We review and finalize scoring rubrics, become familiar with the curriculum, and then score the curriculum against that rubric. So the curriculums we reviewed was illustrative mathematics for math and Open SciEd grades 6 through 8 for science. So we're going to start this evening with illustrative mathematics. The rubric that we utilized is similar for criterion 1 for pretty much all the curriculums that we adopt or vet now. And then criterion 2 and 3 relate to math. So these were the criterion that we utilized. The next slide is the virtual open house feedback that we received. We received 8 responses from math. 25% of those respondents rated IM as outstanding, 75% rated it as adequate. And then the breakdown of those respondents was 7 teachers and 1 paraprofessional. The committee rated IM as a 1.88 out of 2. And all of them do recommend that illustrative math be adopted as the middle school math curriculum. Do you have any questions about illustrative mathematics or the process?
So to me, there's a clear winner because we don't have any competition.
Correct.
In this case, we usually see 2 or 3 options. Was there just no other option for us?
So there's not another option because Gradient has this one available to us within their platform. And so we're just, vetting that one to see if it would be a good fit for our district.
And it was very good. I was glad to see that there were 0 unacceptable votes. So that's, even though there's only 1, at least nobody thought that was unacceptable.
Correct.
Anything
Trustees,
else,
is there any other
trustees?
questions?
Do you want to continue to science and then we'll do 2 separate motions, or would you like us to go?
I think you should do the motion for
As
this
we
one
go?
now and then.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the illustrative mathematics curriculum through Gradient Learning for the applicable middle school math courses for the Nampa School District.
Second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right, so for science, the curriculum that's available through Gradient Learning is Open SciEd, so Open Education Resource. So the rubric for criterion 1, similar to math, criterion 2 and 3 are related to science. Okay, and then the open house feedback, there was 12 responses that we received. 33% rated it adequate and 66.7% rated it unsatisfactory. And the breakdown for this one is there was 1 paraprofessional and 11 teachers that responded. And there was a lot of input that was provided through the open house feedback. And so this next slide is just a summary of some of those responses. And it ranges from engagements inconsistent, requires heavy supplementation, misaligned with our current model, resources and logistic challenges, etc. You can stop me anytime if you have any questions or thoughts.
No, so this one obviously was not as useful as the math curriculum.
Yes, and so the next slide is the committee's feedback on this, and they agreed with the open house feedback on many instances. They rated it a 1.5 out of 2. One committee member did recommend that it be adopted, 5 did not. And on the next slide, we summarized their justification for that. And so one of the ones that was aligned was not aligned to current district structure. Open SciEd takes an integrated approach to teaching science, which doesn't fit within our current model. We teach it by subject, like earth science, life science, physical science. Instead, they do 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then it's integrated within that. Yeah.
And sorry, quick question. Please remind me, we just had a math adoption, but that was for high school, correct?
Correct.
And then didn't we also have a science adoption, but that was for AP, or was it just high school, or what levels? Remind me, please, what levels we just adopted for science, please.
Chair Jennings, Trustee Benz. Yes, so in the fall, we looked at the grading options for high school. And so they do have an open SciEd course, and so we looked at biology, and that was approved. And then illustrative mathematics was approved at the high school level as well.
Okay, thank you. If we are not at the point where we would otherwise need to adopt a science curriculum, this is a cost-effective alternative to the curriculum that is not up for adoption yet. It's not part of the cycle yet, right? So if we do not approve, it doesn't hurt anything, right? We're not putting ourselves in a bad position.
Chair Jennings, Trustee Benz, you're correct. Okay. So we have a resource that's adopted at the middle school level, and it's not going away. We can still access that. So we'll renew that for next year. And it's likely, just based on our cycle that we follow, that next year will be a secondary adoption for additional high school courses that we still need to adopt for, and then for middle school science.
Thank you.
But yes, this is a lower cost option that's available to us.
Of course, we're good.
Any other questions on the committee's thoughts? Okay, there was other reasons why they felt like it wasn't a good fit, but I think one of the big ones, like that they had in common with open houses, that it just doesn't fit our model. Okay. And so the next slide's a summary of both of those. Both teacher feedback and the adoption committee recognize that open SciEd aligns to modern science standards and promotes a strong inquiry-based approach to learning. However, both groups also identified significant concerns how effectively the curriculum would function within the district, among some other concerns. So this one is one that's not recommended for adoption.
Okay. Seems if we don't have any further questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we do not approve the open SciEd 6 to 8 curriculum for the Nampa School District.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. I'll take a quick moment. If you guys can stand and stay as long as you want, we'd love to have you. It's just must-see TV around here, but if you'd like to leave, you guys can as well. Just so you're aware. Okay, we'll be moving on to item D. Dr. Russell, city easement request at Central.
Yeah. Chair Jennings, trustees, Mr. Stauffer is going to come forth and share about a request that came from the city of Nampa around an easement of one of our properties. Mr. Stauffer.
Chair Jennings, Board of Trustees. Again, in front of you, we received a request from the City of Nampa Public Works Department about a month and a half ago regarding a project to upgrade some of the fire lines or the water lines that run through our property. You might recall that a few months ago, we had a fire in the neighborhood of Central. And one of the things that they recognized during that time frame is a need for an upgrade in the water line systems to ensure that there's enough water pressure to man the fire hydrants, essentially in that area. This is part of an ongoing project that the city has, but this area became in focus, and also in respecting our timelines, they want to accomplish this during the summer. So in front of you is a request for an easement. And basically what that means is that we would give them the right of way to be able to enter into our property. That small section of where the water lines will be and currently are, it will be pretty much in the same place that the current water lines run. But the map on the very last page kind of gives you an idea of where that will be running. And so again, this is a request from the city. We at the district as well feel it would be in our best interest to accept this as well.
I have a question because we just had something similar over at Sherman this school year. And as is normal it seems usual in the course of these types of projects, the extent of the disruption and the length of the time of the disruption was significantly greater than initially anticipated. How do we know that I don't disagree that we need the easement, but I'm just thinking of timeline. If we grant the easement now, is there any guarantee that the disruption will be over before children return in the fall?
Chair Jennings and Trustee Benz, great question. I don't know if we can ever guarantee any type of project when you open up trenches in any component, because you just don't know what you're going to find. So I think that's a hard statement for us to guarantee that there won't be. Now, saying that, this project is considerably smaller than what we were talking about with what happened at Sherman. In Sherman, it was the whole block. And so it just so happened that the main line was also on our property. So the impact was not the school property itself, it was the street leading into the school. So this is not going to impact that. It should be only a few days is what we've been notified. We knew that the other project was going to be longer at Sherman. So this is not a comparable project to those two. And so my best guess that I can give you right now, looking at the project, looking at what they're trying to accomplish, is this should not take any more time than what we have in the summer that's available to us. And again, they're only asking for a week time frame. But again, I also want to be very cautious about in any project, as soon as you open up something, there are things that you find sometimes that you just have to fix and correct. And I don't think these are comparable projects. Yes, they're dealing with water lines, but they're two very different projects. Hopefully that answers your question respectfully, in the sense that I can't guarantee anything, nor can the city.
Okay, thank you.
So does this just essentially run on the back side of the building through the playground area or whatever?
Yeah, Chair Jennings, if you think it's over towards, where the big trees are, and they kind of run right next to the big trees behind where the portables are. So it's more in the area where the track is, kind of close to that area. That's where this will be running. If you're actually on site, you can see there's an alleyway to the left and the right of the property, and it runs through that alleyway. So this property was donated to the district in 1975, and it expanded the site of Central, and they vacated that alleyway. That's why all the water lines ran right there, as it used to be an alleyway when there were houses there. So when it became district property, we turned it into playground. And so that's why you kind of have that line that goes through our property.
And any damages will be repaired?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's part of the agreement that we have with them. They take care of everything. They'll repair anything. They will replace the sod and make sure that everything is back on as it was before they opened it.
Okay.
And again, I think the biggest thing here to look at as well is the concern that they have over ensuring that we have enough fire and water pressure for fires. I think that is, again, the culminating component of this, why we really want to work with them on it, because it does improve drastically the water pressure that we have at the fire hydrants that surround the school.
Right.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Trustees, any further questions? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the permanent utility easement to the city of Nampa at Central Elementary School and authorize the Assistant Superintendent of Operations to execute the agreement and any associated documents.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Russell, moving on to E, West Learning Center parking lot.
Chair Jennings, trustees, Mr. Stauffer is going to share some information that we received around updating our parking lot over at the West Learning Center and some fire code that we've had to do. So, Mr. Stauffer.
Chair Jennings and Board of Trustees, again, it's a pleasure to not have moved from the spot. I can stay here for a little bit and visit with you some more about fun projects. One of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention is at the West Learning Center, as part of the project that we had for the roof in the PD Center, we were aware we had some parking that was going to be added along Sheridan, which is that little L around the church on the north side of the property. There was going to be some parking that was going to be placed in there. As part of that plan, originally it was approved, but as the fire department, and one of the things I've learned quite a bit about over the last few years is the fire department has a lot of upgrades that they like us to be considered of due to some of the age of our buildings. And in this one, they held some reservations about that parking lot and ultimately have some concerns about the access to fire hydrants around West Learning Campus. The new code says you have to be within 200 feet of a fire hydrant on any component of the building. Well, the building being built in the 70s does not meet that code. And when you touch a facility like West, we are required to bring those up to code. So through a revision with the fire department, they asked for some new additions to that plan. Part of it was moving the parking lot from the existing Sheridan Road onto our campus, which would create a fire lane that would provide access to that 200 feet for a fire hydrant. The other component of it was to, on the back side or on the gym side, there would be a fire lane that would be created that would allow them access to another fire hydrant that would be 200 feet in distance. So those are the two major components that were taken into consideration with the second iteration of the site plan. We did have a budget and a line item in our prior approved package that was for $266,846 for that parking lot. When Bennington and Design West were made aware of this, they redesigned it, submitted to the city, got approvals and got them to sign off on it. And then knowing that that was most likely going to be above our projected costs, Bennington put it out to bid to find out what the true cost of those additional requirements from the fire department would cost us. The new bids gave that grand total of that part of the project for $537,937 through the bidding process. So the difference between what was approved prior and what we're asking for board approval now is $271,127 to complete that project. And I'll entertain if there's any other additional questions from that. But that is essentially what had taken place and what we're asking for at this time.
And we're still under budget.
We are. So the culminating budget that we had discussed prior was $4.8 million. We're still sitting almost $800,000 underneath that budget, even with this increase.
Any other questions? Would you mind touching on, so it's kind of a public topic at this point, where this money comes from?
Yes.
How we can use it and what we
Sure.
can't use this money for?
No, thank you. Chair Jennings, again, as we had mentioned in the original approval of this plan, we have a building facility maintenance budget that has come from the state, which we call and here we talk a lot about the 521 money. That's that pocket of money that has been allocated 2 years ago for the state to the two districts to help with building maintenance and upkeep of capital projects. Now, the key is it's not necessarily for everyday maintenance. These are for larger projects, renovation projects, things to bring buildings back up to code and to also can be used for new buildings. They cannot be used for athletic buildings or any athletic facilities, except for those that are being used for educational purposes, like the gym. Those are ones that can be used. For some odd reason, in some of the finer line items, tennis courts can. That's probably the only other one that can be used. For whatever reason, that's one anomaly that we've heard that is allowed in this with this money. But it is exclusively and only can be used for this purpose of remodeling, upgrading, or building new facilities for the district. Okay. Can't be used for any personnel. That's the other key component for it. It cannot be used for people, and it cannot be used for also like programs, like computer programs and those types of things. It cannot be used for that as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. If we have no further questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the revised Phase 2 site improvement scope as identified in the bid results and authorize the Assistant Superintendent of Operations to execute the amended contract consistent with Idaho Code.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made in second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we will move on to line item F. Dr. Russell?
Yeah, Chair Jennings, trustees, last month you may recall that administration had brought forth policy 1530 around the public records request to the board. This was in response to some discussions up at ISBA and some changes in the law. Mr. Stauffer's here to share some of those changes that we made based on some of that feedback we heard from the board last month.
Chair Jennings, the trustees, I think the easy component of this the potential policy is it just updates to the current legal language that has been updated in Idaho law. There are a lot of things in here that the primary components are based off of whether you're an Idaho resident or non-Idaho resident. There is a difference of time when a public records request is made. There is an option for the district to utilize different timeframes. And so we've updated this policy in the draft that you see before you. With that information, we did use the ISBA model to provide this for you. It's one that you did look at last month just as a cursory view. We did clean up a few of the things that were in the original one that you saw that said basically insert your district's information here. So we did, that was truly the only change that you're seeing from what we showed you last month to this month, but we cleaned it up to make sure that it would be appropriate for a policy. In all, there's not a lot of other things that were changed other than that clarification as far as the timing.
And then there's still a section that has the highlighted price. The price cannot, is that still TBD?
Yeah, so one of the price on it, I think you're referencing the
cents per page.
Per page. And one of the things that we were considering seeking the board's advice on this one as well is there's a cost today for that. There's a cost tomorrow that changes. And so this is, again, the model draft. And different components after that 100 cost the cost changes. So we were wondering about how do we navigate this piece to lock us into a price, and does the board want us to come back every time and change that price as prices go up? We cannot charge more than what it costs us, and I think that's the piece that we have to keep in here. But those costs do change.
So the default would just be whatever it costs us.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with that.
Is there a way to either finesse that to leave that flexibility so you'll be charged the cost of making these copies or whatever, so we don't have to put in the cents? Or if we can't do it that way, then I can't see us avoiding the problem of putting in a price and then having to come back and fix it when the price of copies goes up.
Trustee Jennings and Trustee Binns, yeah, that is definitely something that we can do, is put in the current cost of the price. And so I think we can massage that and add some components in there, make sure that it fits the legal muster as well.
Okay.
So we're happy to take this back and also add some language in there if the board would like us to do that.
And if I remember correctly, the biggest change was the time frame for the out-of-state requests, correct? And we were trying to get clarification about, is this calendar days, business days?
It is calendar days,
Okay.
just as Chair Binns, as we did look through that, it is calendar days. It is business days for Idaho residents, and for non-Idaho residents, it's calendar days.
Okay, thank you.
And again, these have to be requested. We have to request that or inform the person who's soliciting the information. We have to identify that in writing to them as well.
Mhm. Okay. And then this is just a picky little thing. There looks to be just a typo, like a double period extra space in the fee section, the fee schedule, item number 3, item D. There.
Perfect.
So it's right below the highlighted section.
I see it.
Okay, and then Chair Jennings,
Mhm.
since we need to clean up that last little section in there, do we just put it back for a second reading next time, or?
Can we make alterations and then have a second read?
Yes, you just approve the first reading and then with edits as discussed.
Okay.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve this first reading of policy 1530 and that this policy, a draft of this policy be brought back for second reading at a later meeting with the edits suggested by the board.
This motion on the table. Do I have a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chair Jennings, I was
Yes.
typing, who seconded?
Trustee Barons.
Carla. I had a frog in my throat.
Kind of rough up here in the middle. I got them too, so. Okay, we're moving on to line item G, policy 2700, high school graduation requirements. Dr. Russell.
Chair Jennings and trustees, before you tonight, I'm going to have Mr. Yarborough discuss one of the things the administration has been considering after we moved to a tri-6 schedule change the last couple of years was graduation requirements. As we increased opportunities and choices for students, we also increased the ability to earn credits. And under our old high school graduation requirements, it does allow our students to achieve those credits quicker and more efficiently, but it also has some ramifications and some of the things that we're going to talk about today. We have been looking around at districts across the state of Idaho who are tri-6, and they have adjusted those graduation requirements. That is something we considered when we thought about doing this schedule. Of course, if you will recall, the schedule was done to save FTE after the enrollment drops we've had, the change of enrollment attendance from the state, as well as ESSER dollars leaving. So this is something that we're here to discuss tonight, and happy to answer any questions. I'll turn it over to Mr. Yarborough.
Trustee Jennings, Dr. Russell, thank you. Tyler, could you bring up the PowerPoint? Just as a quick reminder, brought this PowerPoint and the recommendation to the board back in December. I appreciate the grace. I had a knee surgery in January, was out January and February, and then last month was out at a vision trip for an MPL thing we're doing here in the district. And so this is the first opportunity I've had to bring this back. So appreciate the time and energy there. Do want to go through, I've contacted each of the board members individually and kind of got some questions and thoughts and just want to navigate that through. But the first part of the PowerPoint is a reminder of where we're at and what our state requirement changes that really aren't up for us to decide. We have to just figure out how to implement them. And then the district recommendation of the graduation requirements, increasing credit number. I turn that right size and I'll explain why, but that's where we're at. So Tyler, next slide, please. So again, just a brief shout out. I think it is important to recognize the work that was done by the committee members and who they were. This is our committee that met very consistently throughout the fall. We did elicit parent feedback, and on one meeting we had one parent show up that came in as we were nearing the end of our graduation requirement conversation, and it had him involved. And then also that last name there, Miss Ella Bowman, is a junior at Nampa High School. She showed up one meeting with Mr. Gowan and then just became a part of the committee. So great having her involved. And then those are educators we had. We did have this committee put together as an administrative committee the prior December, so December of 24, because we were waiting on the state's changes and what was going to happen there. And we'd had the board authorized at that time. It was an administrative committee. So that was the makeup of the committee. Next slide, Tyler. So the next few slides are very specific changes that we don't have the option of doing nothing about. We need to do those. Again, these are state requirements. One is the integration of the new state Idaho graduation requirements. This has to be done by the class of 2028. Particularly, that's the digital literacy course. And then the idea of what we're doing under the implementation and adjustments, that's the district piece. The other pieces that the state came up with, there's an adjustment to the senior project that's now changed to a future readiness project. We do already update, and we've already updated and aligned to the posting of localized pathways within our website. We've done that for years and continue to. The update of the civics test, that is going to be coming out next this summer. The state board is set to vote on that test. We've seen a draft of that. That will not take effect for next year's class. That will be our current mechanism we've had. And the that test will be in the next year. So the class of 2028 will have to pass this new civics test. We'll be using that within our normal mechanism within our district. And then the science alignment, there's still some things working out at the state level as far as naming conventions and things along that. I have contacted the state, and what we have science-wise, we're exactly where we need to be. There's no real change for us functionally of how we operate as a district. So those, again, just broad overview. Next slide, Tyler. These are, again, very specifics. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on that if that's fair, because we have seen this before. Just want to remind the digital literacy component, that is a requirement. We already have BCA courses within our system, and we are adapting one of those courses for next year. So the digital literacy content and standards will be addressed and taught within our courses that we already have within our requirements. And so we've satisfied that. Next slide, Tyler. The other one is the Future Readiness Project. Again, this is kind of a rework of what has traditionally been in our district and in the state, the senior project, kind of a culminating project of learning. This is really the big move or shift here was working towards getting the career and college readiness competencies incorporated into what the Future Readiness Project is, and opening up that it's not just a senior project. Kids could build it throughout their high school career, and a couple of things there. Our district met and we talked that through on how to do that. Feel like we're in a really good spot, and where we can go from things we have done functionally and what works, and then incorporating the new college and career readiness competencies, which is a really good move for our students. So next slide, Tyler. Here again, posting of localized pathways. This is really something we've already done. The requirement by the state is to post 2 localized pathways, which are post-secondary options for kids, particularly in vocational or training tracks. We've done that through CTE for years. So we've already met that requirement and feel great there. And then number 4, again, is that civics exam, that state requirement. That will go in for the class of 2028. We had planned to implement that. There was going to be some ambiguity around what to do in 27, but we got clarification from the state yesterday and some other conversations. It is not required for the graduating class of 2027. It will be for the class of 2028, of which my daughter is a member. So she gets to pass the new one. Okay, the last one here, next slide, Tyler. This is, again, where we're getting to the district recommendation. The committee met and looked at, again, our shift in schedule and are proposing a right sizing of the number of overall credits required within our system. In our old system, under the AB block, we had a total of 51 credits required. That is 5 above the state minimum. That 51 credits has been around, I can't tell you how long, but decades. When I was teaching at Columbia, it was 51 required credits, and we had that set up under the AB block schedule and had used that for a long period of time. Those additional credits, which are above the state requirement in our district, were particularly 3 CTE credits, which we built around business. So BCA, an additional a credit there for technology, and then a health class, or PE class that wasn't required, and then one other humanities class, I believe it was. But those are our 51 that we have. The proposed to right size to move to 58 is an increase of 7 credits, which does, in the scheme of things, requires more in a number of credits for our kids. But when you look at that compared to the old schedule, what they are, it's very much the same percentage of credits required versus credits offered. We are going up just under 1% from 79.7% to at just over 80%, 80.6%. So 0.9% of an increase. And that's to do with the time and how we balance out what our schedule looks like now and the courses that we have to offer and where we have kids. I have some more on that in another slide here in a second. The shift would still allow for kids to take as many opens as they need for religious release in our current ecosystem, and working with some of our local faith entities. Typically, that's 2 of 3 trimesters they would take as a religious release open. And then also they could have open periods in their junior and senior year. We're not taking that out of recommendation or what we do to navigate how we do school. Any questions on this slide? Next recommendation, or next slide, Tyler. So again, our recommendation of 7 credits is, next slide, Tyler, sorry, is specifically 7 credits. 2 of those, given where we see mathematics instruction and mathematics performance and the need and push for STEM across not only our school district, but our state and our society, looking at bolstering the mathematical skill that we have for students. We are recommending a 2 credit increase in mathematics, in particular the Math 1 course and the Math 2 course. which would be an additional 1 credit in the freshman and sophomore year, is typically where we have those classes. Some students actually enter into high school and take Math 2 in their freshman year if they've done a year of Math 1 in their middle school. And that actually aligns perfectly because they take it all year in middle school, and then they would have all year of Math 2 in high school as well. If they don't take Math 1, it's 1 year of math instruction in their freshman year, and then an additional year of math instruction in their sophomore year. All of our other math courses are still remaining 2 of 3. So even our advanced courses and along those lines would be 2 of 3. So those are the specific academic recommendations, along with 5 overall additional electives within our system. We believe those electives are things that we can definitely bolster and have done a good job, particularly in our CTE realm, and we support kids and what they do there. And we also, since our schedule change, have added in some other opportunities, including some work release type of credits for kids, especially those in the back end of their junior and senior year that need and have part-time jobs. And we're trying to find a win-win where, as a school district, we can offer credit for that, still maintain the funding mechanism of them attending, and allow them the flexibility to do what they need to do from a work perspective. So those are some of the ways that we can navigate that. Over the whole, these credits, again, would be an additional 5 elective credits over their entire high school career. It's not in any one given year that they would have to meet those additional credit, the increase of credits, other than the Math 1 and Math 2 would be prescribed within their Math 1 or Math 2 course. Next slide, Tyler. So if the board chooses to accept that recommendation, the proposed timeline, again, the class of 2026, which is graduating next month, there is no change. We're at 51 credits, have been, would be. We don't want to spring anything on our parents or students and make that difficult for them, as we would do the same thing next year in the class of 2027. They would remain at 51 credits. So our current juniors going into their senior year would have no additional issue at all. The class of 2028 would see 3 additional elective credits. And the reason the math credits are not on for the class of 2028, those kids are sophomores right now in our current system. Math 1 is freshman, Math 2 is sophomore. So that's why it would be 3 elective credits, and they would have their junior and senior year to incorporate that in, again, over a trimester of 18 options each year. And then in the class of 2029, we would move to 56 total credits. Here again, we would have this year's freshmen would have Math 2 this coming year, so that additional Math 2 credit, and then 4 additional elective credits over their 3 years. And then by the class of 2030, which would be this year's incoming freshmen of the fall of 2026, we would be on that 58 credit requirement, if you will, and they would have the additional Math 1, Math 2, and then the 5 additional elective credits over their high school career. So that would be the proposed timeline should the board choose to accept the graduation recommendation. I do want to pull up what Dr. Russell talked to. Next slide, Tyler. We did, since the last meeting and talking with some trustees, I totally understand the worry and concern of, are we creating, or are we shifting the bar and load on what our students are doing to get them to graduate, and how would we navigate that, as well as speaking very transparently and candidly, the conversation of funding in public schools in Idaho. Funding in public schools is tied to whether we like it or not, students being enrolled and attending schools. And it's a very hard spot for us to be in, because we don't want to look any parent or student in the eye and say, you have to be here for us to have money. That's not our intent. And we have to balance that with, if we don't have that revenue stream, we can't provide programming and educational opportunities for kids. So finding that balance is what we're trying to do, bringing forward these recommendations, and then the board can decide what to do with those. In talking with 4 different, and when I say talking, I've spoken with the superintendents of these various districts at different times. I didn't call them specifically for this. I double checked their websites and know that they're at these levels. The eastern side of the state has many more Tri-6 districts, and they've been on those for a decade plus. The 4 districts that are similar to us in size, as far as size of high school that they have, if you will, they may not have as many high schools, but they're in the 5A classification. There, I'm particularly thinking like Blackfoot. They require more than 60 credits on a Tri-6. In fact, 2 of those school districts, Rigby, which is a 6A school, and then Bonneville, Bonneville, which is a 5A school, I believe right now, at the 60 credits, and then Blackfoot at 64, and then Idaho Falls at 61. And they do very much like our recommendation. It's an increase of electives and some core classes, particularly in that freshman and sophomore year. They may have a 3 of 3 when they do their trimester schedule. The last 2 slides I want to show are just a comparison of where we were the last year. We had the AB block schedule and graduation rate. Tyler, next slide, please. And then the last one is just the comparison, again, the right sizing when it comes down to the credit hours and how that relates to how much time kids are spending in school. This slide specifically in the second column, in the class of 2024 was the last class we had on the AB block schedule. And there were a total of 829 students who graduated in that cohort across our system. When we look at the credits that those students earned, and we break that down by number of credits, every student had to be over 51 to graduate, obviously. And then we break that down. There were 8.6% or 71 of those students had 51 to 53 credits. 185 of those students had 54 to 57 credits, or 22.3%. And then 58 credits or more, even on our old block system, we had 69.1% of our students, or 573, that graduated with 58 or more credits. The first year, which was last year of the tri-system, if you will, we had a class that had 3 years in the block system and then 1 year in the tri-system. The numbers shifted, not dramatically, but a fair amount. The 51 to 53, again, the kids that are on the bubble and that piece is there, we're going to have those regardless of what our system is. That was about 7.9%, again, 61 kids. On the 54 to 57, here's where I think it started to shift. You saw the 185, because they have more opportunities, go down to 112. And they're 14.5% of those, to 58 or more, 602 students. So almost 78% of our students graduating with that, without the requirement of moving that. And I know in conversation with board members, that was one of the things of, well, if we don't need to move it, then why not? It looks like kids are doing that. I think that's a fair point. However, I'm wondering and worrying about if we don't secure programming over time, we can see what happens with the lack of kids attending those other electives in their junior and senior year, and that could have ramifications for us from a financial standpoint. So I wanted to share that one. And then the last slide, Tyler, this one, again, I wanted to break down. I apologize for getting in the weeds here in the numbers, but I want to make sure we're clear in how that looks, and the term of right sizing to our schedule, how that really plays out, rather than us increasing really time in class and time that kids are at school. So the first column shows the total hours per year, and I need to be really clear when I speak here. This includes just instructional hours, so the time that they are in class, and mentoring. And they're obviously in mentoring and those classes, but I want to show that, and it'll explain as I go through the graph. The last year on the AB block, we had 996.4 hours, so 921.6 instructional hours, so just their required courses. And then we had 74.8 hours of mentoring throughout the year. So the total of 996.4 on the block. The Tri-6, the first year we were at 1,030 hours. Now, again, this shifts down because of shifting the 18 minutes out of our day. That was 945 hours and plus 85 hours in mentoring. Interestingly enough, when we went back and looked at the survey data, 60% of our parents and students said they wanted mentoring. We were actually in the air on that when we shifted the schedule. We didn't think that was going to be there, but they did. And so that's where those numbers fold in. The reason I'm really talking about mentoring in this column, the other columns do not include mentoring, because in both those years, the numbers for mentoring are very, very close. We had 32 minutes a day in the block schedule. Without the Wednesday, we didn't have mentoring there, but it was 4 days of 32 minutes. And then in the Tri-6 4-day schedule, we have had 34 minutes of mentoring every day of the week. So I'm going to set those aside, but I wanted to at least show what those look like for overall total hours in school. The total per class now, when we look at just instructional only, in that year, I ran into a struggle because our calendar was 171 days, and we had a shift of, in this semester it was this many days, and this semester was this many days. So I chose the average to go with 43 days, which is basically where our number lands over historical time for the number of classes in the block schedule that kids had in a semester. So I'll let that sink in a little bit. It was 43 of the 86 days in a semester, if you will, that they were in either their A day or their B day. So when you extrapolate that out, that was 58.767 hours. We still were under the 60-hour credit requirement of the state, so we were wavering down and had been for a long time on those. There were a couple semesters where we were actually over 60, but then the others we were under, but this was that average of what it looked like. The key there is the next column over, where we talk about what 51 total credits looked like in all 4 years. If you take the 58.76 hours and you times that by the 51 credits, you come up with 2,997 hours that kids were required to be in school to meet their credit requirements, if you will. I did throw one, and I lined it out on purpose because we never would have done this under that schedule. If we had went with 58 total credits under that model, we would have been at 3,408.48 hours That's not tenable. That's not going to be what we need to do. But I wanted to show the math of what that looks like. Then when we come back to the Tri-6 and look at the last 3 columns, right now, and I think it's really important to, again, recognize, in our classes without mentoring, in a 63-minute period with 50 days in the trimester, we have 52.5 hours. That's how much time a kid at any of our comprehensive high schools spends in their required course. It seems low, but we very specifically asked the board, and the board approved. We are counting the mentoring minutes back into that with the state waiver piece. So again, we're not counting that here to understand where they're at because they're already in that 34 minutes a day. But our waiver for the state is closer to 56.5 hours because of us incorporating that time back in. I just wanted to show, again, real time in class and what that looks like in our schedule on the current system. If we take that 52.5 hours and we extrapolate the 51 credits, if we remain there, we will decrease the amount of time kids are in school by 320 hours for them to achieve the 51 magic credits, a deduction or a reduction of 320 hours. That could have some serious implications for our system. It just really can, because the way the state funds us, again, is a half-time or a full-time student. What that looks like is if you're over 2.5 hours a day up to just under 4 hours a day, that's a half-time student. If you're there for more than 4 hours a day, that's a full-time student. When you extrapolate that over time, that can have a significant dynamic to funding for our ability to have programs and options for our kids. If the board chooses to go with the 58 credits that are being recommended, that 52.5 hours equates to 3,045 hours. So it is an increase off of the 51 under the block, which is 2997, but it's an increase of about 48 hours. That's 48 hours over 4 years. When you take that down to what it is a trimester, it's basically 3 hours a trimester. And then when you do that by the 6 classes, we're really down to like 5 or 6 minutes at max that it actually impacts kids' amount of overall time in school. But to be clear, because we moved to 4-day, we are in school about an hour longer than we were on a 5-day week. Those days, if you will, that's definitely a piece of the dynamic. But we have that, and we shuffled that to keep, again, options for students and what we have there. Our CTE programs and busing, it's very tight right now, and we don't think we could survive on straight 7. I've talked with a few of you about bundling, what that looks like. We could not shuttle kids around with less than 63 minutes in a period. It really, really starts to denigrate the impact and quality of the opportunity they have. So those pieces I wanted to give to the board. In your packet, there are 3 proposed motions. Obviously, the board can give us other motions as well, but I did propose 3 motions. Tyler, I don't know if you have those. I'll pull it up so I can read them. Those motions include option 1 is accepting the graduation requirement, the recommendation from administration of increasing to 58 credits. Option 2 would be to consider, if you do not want to go with the elective credits, that you would increase the mathematics credits to get to a total of 53 credits within our system. And option 3 is to leave it as is with 51 credits. So those are options. I can definitely find other motions if you would like, and we can craft those if the board decides differently. And also, one last very important piece in your packet is also the request from the last meeting. There's a draft of the policy of what would go into policy should the board choose to go with the recommendation. It's redlined out of what changes there are and then underlined of new language. I would like to remind the board again, even if we don't change the number of credits, those underlined portions for particularly the future readiness project, the civics exam, and some of those other pieces would be things that would go into that. So I know that was a lot of information, and I'm ready for questions.
Trustees, questions?
I have a question about, so I'm looking at the draft recommendation, the policy 2700 draft recommendation. And it looks as though the recommendation is to increase the mathematics requirements from 6 to 8 credits, and going from 2 semester credits of algebra to 3, and et cetera. So the 2 starting math classes, basic math classes, would be would increase from 2 credits each to 3, and then the TBD math of your choice is still at 2. As a practical matter, because something tickles the back of my brain, that you must have at least 2 math credits in your senior year. Is that still a thing?
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, no, it is not. That
Okay.
requirement was taken away. You do have to have them, but they do not have to be in the senior year anymore.
Okay, because if this is implemented in this way, the math in particular, because this was the first one that caught my attention because it's going from semester credits to basically trimester credits.
Correct.
That would mean a full year of math for freshmen. Math 1 A, B, C, Math 2 A, B, C for sophomores, and then you can choose how you pick up the last 2 TBD credits, right? And the interesting thing though is that the ELA would remain at 8 credits for the regular English classes plus speech, right? And so I'm just thinking on a practical level, because I just did some quick doodles. I'm like, if I'm a freshman and I'm just looking at what do I have to do to be done, what would that look like? And I'm not assuming that there are going to be freshmen who fall through the cracks and make their own schedules and whatever. There's going to be some adult who knows what they're doing, guiding them. That's the theory. But if there is somebody, it looks as though someone could be finished with all the core requirements beginning like middle of their junior year, and then just taking electives and biding their time. Which is fine if that's how they want to do it. But what happens if somebody doesn't do that? What happens to the kids who struggle in math or ELA and have to take a class multiple times before they succeed? The current requirements recommendation, it would seem could cause a logistical nightmare, especially if we have math 1A, B, and C. What happens to the kid who, and would they fail B and then move on to C and have to go back and get B later? Or would you have to have A, B, and C offered every trimester, at least one section, in order for this kid to make up whatever they missed? And then what does that do logistically? What if there's only one section of math 1A in that trimester, but they also failed English 9A and there's only one section and they happen to be at the same time? It seems to me like we're creating a logistical nightmare. Does that make sense?
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
And that logistical nightmare is right now. If a student fails math A, math 1A, we don't have schedules that are, we don't put them in that class again the next trimester. We have summer school intermediation that we're doing right now. I actually think this would alleviate some of that problem because I'm not increasing the number of the things that we teach in math. We're giving more time to teach it, so we could chunk it better and navigate that through. I definitely appreciate that perspective and what that creates. What we're wanting our high schools to do is to start to create some intermediate or some intervention and remediation sections they can do. But at the current time, we don't have that. So if a student goes, all students go that are in math 1 and they go A, B, and C, that's just like in a semester when we teach A and B. We never had A in the second semester. So we just take them through the year of math. And then the thing that they did fail with how we run summer school with completion, it could be that if they failed the first semester, but they moved the A section, if they moved into the B section, were successful, we just have to go make sure that the standard that they weren't successful on in the A section is what they remedy in the summer school. So we're looking at from like the standard in their skill base, not just the grade piece, because we don't do that within how our summer schools work. They're catch-up programs. They're not redo the entire classroom ground zero.
Right, but what happens to little Billy, right? Totally did not take high school seriously, dinked around the first trimester, failed everything, right? Now little Billy is behind, doesn't have 9A English, doesn't have 1A math, doesn't have physical science A, can't move on to B, Does he then lose an entire year because he has to wait until summer school to remediate that first thing so that he can go on to B, or how does?
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, at the current time, we put them in the B section. That is how we schedule, even if a student fails that first one, because the way that courses are taught are not necessarily linear, that it has to be X and then Y. And I get from an educator perspective, that may not be optimal, but that is the current piece of how we do that and how we navigate that through. And then we do have, again, remediation options. If it's credit recovery, that we can run a student through. And we do in the junior and senior year, a ton of those things. What I'm trying to express is that the challenges that you're expressing are very real and there, and we're dealing with them now. I don't think the shift of doing this exacerbates that. I think it actually supports that.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. However, maybe there's something that I am not fully understanding, because I fear that this would exacerbate it, because now they have to reach a higher bar. They have to get more credits, but they have fewer opportunities to get the right credits. And so what if, okay, so if there's an intervention class, a remediation class, they can take that, they can get one of their elective credits out of the way, and they're prepared to go back into whatever that core subject happens to be and be successful. But what if, I'm just worried that if somebody strikes out at the beginning of the year, they've lost the whole year because they're not having the opportunities until the summer to make up this extra requirement, because then they're like 3 credits behind instead of just the one that they messed up. Does that make sense?
It does.
And now they're more to get than they would otherwise have.
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, over their high school career, there's 7 more, meaning 5 electives and 2 math. So really, we're talking about 2 math that what they would need to be remediating. Because those elective options, remember, they now have 72 options. Let's say that a student did fail 9 of their 18 courses in their freshman year, 9 of the 18 possibilities. They actually still have then, but they have that 9, they have another 5 opportunities in the system to make that up. So if they rebooted their entire freshman year, they still could do that and still graduate on time under our system, because we have 72 options. If we didn't have that, you're exactly right that they would lose that. They have that buffer that we've built in by doing that. A student right now, if they don't, if they wanted to take all the opens that they wanted, they could take 14 in their high school career. So let's say, again, they fail 9, they still have 5 extra options to recover those. And how do we do that with all the other pieces of our system? And we do have that. We have Nampa Academy, we have Union, we have multiple things in our system to remedy that for those kids. And I want to support all of our kids, those high achieving kids, all of them. We need to do that. And I think that's, again, the thing when we create a system, if we create it for just one faction of our population, we might be missing other things that are there. We have Nampa Academy, we have Union, we have credit recovery, we have remediation, we have advanced courses. And this allows us to meet all those needs is the recommendation of the committee. So,
okay. Yeah. I can see that we have the bottom end of the spectrum and the top end of the spectrum taken care of. It's the ones in the middle, because if the kids really bomb out, they will go to an alternative school, 48 credits required to graduate, 46 to 48, depending on what the program is. They can make that, right? The AP kids, giving them 58 credits, whatever, doesn't, it's like batting away a fly, not a big deal, right? It's the kids in the middle that are not your worst students, but they're not the best students, that I'm worried may not have the wherewithal and the time to flex this extra credit. I don't know. Is this making any sense to anybody who isn't inside my head?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, could I have Tyler bring up the slide on what our graduation has been so I could show again those numbers? I could hit that middle group again.
Okay.
So, slide 13, sorry, slide 12. Okay. So Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, I think this slide speaks to your question and worry. And I actually think it looks like it's going the other way. What I mean by that, when we look at the second column in the old block schedule, we had, let's say that middle of the road kid, we had those kids that were 54 to 57 credits, that they weren't the best, but they were just a little bit over, right? We had 22.3% of those kids that were in that range. In 1 year of the block, excuse me, in 1 year of the tribe, because the schedule shifted, that percentage went from 22.3% of the kids who graduated to 14.5. And when you look underneath, it increased from 69.1 to 77.6. The kids by definition and the function of the schedule, we're going to help them get across. The district has no interest in not helping kids graduate and also holding the bar of, we want to make sure you're prepared, as our mission and vision say, you're prepared for the successful transition to the next stage of life. And again, this is one piece. So maybe I'm off. Maybe it swings the other way, but I'm a betting person. I bet a lot. I would bet the next one over, we see that number at 58 or more credits continue to increase, that you get to 80, 85% of kids are graduating with that, because the system allows that to happen. And then again, if we do a really good job, it's options that they want. It's CTE programs. It's finding things to support if they have a job. It's finding internships for them to get involved in. It's getting them an extra CTE certification, because they can now start one in their junior year or under the block. They could, sophomore year, it was done. So those are the things I think we can leverage to help get kids across. And that's why, again, I'm passionate about it. I think this is trending in that direction. If we right size that, the fear that I have is if we don't right size it, those things become I'm the middle of the road kid, that the middle of the road is now, I can take 21 opens because we have 72 options. But if I only got to get to 51, that's an entire year. Right now, we do have a mechanism for kids who want to graduate early and meet all those requirements. We have that in policy. We've done it. We will continue to do that. Kids can graduate early. We want to create all the options we can for kids while sustaining the financial stability of the options we can provide all of our kids. So,
but to me, this data doesn't show that they hit 51 and stop in either column. So what's to say that's kind of what we're banking on here. Like, oh gosh, they're going to hit 51 and stop. That does not tell me they do that.
Trustee Jennings, great point. I don't think they will hit 51 and stop, but I think from a funding perspective, let's say 15% start to. What does that do for the programming for all of our kids that now we're struggling with having programs in those shrinking years because of enrollment? Well, if that starts to continue to drop, then all of our kids are impacted with a right size of our schedule that we could do and what other districts do on that. You're right. There's nothing that says that they will. And in fact, I agree with you. It shows that kids are going to get above that. And to protect our financial interest, in transparency, that is what a public school district has to do. We have to create programming and options for kids to be able to offer options for kids. That's one way we could do that and stay within 80% of the credits that we offer. We need you to complete. And so we stay consistent with that, because if we go the other way, it's 70% of the credits that we offer you have to get to graduate. And I know we don't want to necessarily make it more arduous, but I also personally, I with kids in the system, like, I don't want to lower the bar. Like, I still need you to show up and learn what it looks like to go to work and do those things. And a lot of our kids are. So I'm not wanting to paint with a broad brush and say kids don't do that. But it could create the opportunity for, okay, I hit the 51, I'm done, when I could, maybe I should get that CTE certification. Maybe I should go ahead and get that job, but I'm not going to, because I got done 21 credits early, if that makes sense. So I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. And I think that's there. I think the hedge is, do we protect the system to retain as much opportunity for kids as we can? So.
Okay, but then there's also I have met all my core requirements. I'm going to take PE 10 times, it's not going to dissuade the minimum, worker, the kid who wants to put in the minimum effort from putting in the minimum effort. I see the same thing in those numbers. Keeping it at the current level, the 51, we're still above the state requirements. The kids are still reaching up above beyond that number. So I'm I'm not understanding the urgency.
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Benz, I think it's because, do you want a system with rigor or do you want to lower the bar? I think it's very easy to graduate from our high schools right now at 51, especially if you have 72 opportunities. Extremely easy. I'd like a system that challenges kids. I think other school districts have looked. To me, that's why when I went through all this with them, to me, it was about, are we going to lower the bar or are you going to keep the bar high? And I think we keep it higher because we adjusted our schedule with the options we have, keep it around 79 to 80 where we are, or we do lower it. And that's why I don't like lowering it. My opinion.
One question.
Yes.
You spoke to the 4 school districts in Eastern Idaho. How are our surrounding districts aligning with this? Like Valley View, maybe CUNA, West Ada, where are they on their requirements?
Great question. Trustee Jennings, Trustee Salinas, they are still on, West Ada is still on a block schedule. Valley View is on a straight 7. Boise's on a straight 7. They're in that range of 51 to 52, 48, based off of, again, that schedule. So it's hard to answer to say that they wouldn't, if they adjusted their schedule, move that way. And I would just highlight again, the reason we moved to this schedule was twofold. Number one, most importantly, was we couldn't afford the block anymore. And number 2 was in that we needed to retain student choice. If we had went with a lower amount of possibilities for kids, if we would went to, I'll give 2 examples. If we went to a straight 7, we really feel like that would be detrimental for CTE, and we would have went from 16 options in the block to 14 options in the straight 7. If we went to a tri-5, we would have went from 16 to 15. And while there's some things about tri-5 I really like, the length of period will be a little longer. It may help us shuttling kids around. The problem is that didn't save us enough money. It went from, it would cost us where we're at now about another 8 to 10 FTE to be able to afford to go to a tri-5. So again, it was these two pieces. We've got to be able to afford this, and we've got to retain student choice. So that's the reason why. And those other districts, again, they're very similar with where we were on the block, which I think, again, we're just asking to right size to that. If we were at 80% or 79%, if we change our schedule, we should stay at that level. We're not asking for more. We're not asking to increase to 85%. We're not asking to increase to 90% is the recommendation. Again, whatever the board decides, we will happily implement and take care of kids. We're good with that. We just want to make sure that's really clear why we're bringing this to you and why we think it is an important thing to right size.
So on the block, the teachers were teaching 3 of 4. On a tri-5, they'd teach 4 of 5.
Correct.
We're teaching 5 of 6 currently.
Correct.
And how many, so we would have essentially lost another 10, 12 on the block. We're down 20.
So it wasn't 3 or 4, it was 6 of 8 because we had the AB, but in the day, you're right,
Per
Trustee
day.
Jennings. So exactly. So basically we had about 73% of the time they were in front of kids till we increased to it's about 83% of the time. A tri-5 is just under 80. And then a straight 7 is actually a little bit above 83. It's close to 85. But again, our reasoning for that was the CTE impact and what would do there. And we felt like this would save the money we needed to save while continuing to offer student choice.
So what happens to a student that like moves from out of district, out of state, that's at a different requirement than we are, maybe lesser? And now we've said that we're at 58, could be a senior.
Yep.
Could be maybe a late junior. I mean, how do we handle that?
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Behrens, great question. We do that right now. We have kids come in from states that they've got 36 credits. But what we do, like because of how their state counts credits. So we have a conversion matrix to pull those across. And then we also can have kids graduate underneath what our policy is by petitioning the board or us bringing that to you. We have mechanisms to do that. We can graduate kids that fall into that situation if necessary. And we do have every now and then. I can remember my time at Napa High. I had a kid come in literally about this time of year, right before the end. There was no way I was getting them 3 tech credits. They didn't have it. So we communicated with the board that their diploma, they met the state requirements. So when I stood up in front of the Idaho Center and said, hey, mate, they met the state requirements, I was good. I wasn't lying. But we adapted theirs to they didn't do those 3 tech credits. So we do that in our system. We want to be humane in how we navigate that. If we don't set that bar though, as far as kids in our system, that's the piece that is really impacting on the financial side. But we do have mechanisms that we can do that and have done that in the past. So it's a great question. And again, I think it's important for us. Those are the one-offs. We don't have that
Correct,
many,
yeah.
but yes, we're going to take care of kids. I feel really proud of being in this district for almost 20 years. I took a 4-year hiatus to Caldwell, and I was in the building where Miss Benz is now. Sorry, Trustee Benz is not the same building, but the same school. We're going to take care of kids. And this isn't about us making it more difficult for them to graduate. It's about keeping what Dr. Russell said. We keep the rigor high because we care about it. Back to what Columbia presented to you. That wasn't like, we're just going to let you. No, we care about you and we know you can do it. And yes, those are high flyers here tonight. I've been in that school a lot. I got a kid in that school. There's a lot of kids that may not be high flyers that are going to achieve to the maximum of what they got because they care about them and they're going to hold them accountable to that. So.
Any other questions, trustees?
Just an observation, not necessarily a question. I think like the first instinct of raising these credits is, are we going to lose students who might say, I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to go to a surrounding, that would be the glass half empty side.
Mm-hmm.
But the glass half full is exactly what you just said, with showcasing what we just heard about Columbia being a top school. To me, that still represents all of Nampa School District. It was
Agreed.
one of our high schools, but it's all 3 of our high schools showing. And I feel like by offering so many choices and these amazing CDE programs and their certificates they can get, that if you look at it on the other side, we might actually be attracting students to come to the Nampa School District because they're not getting those opportunities in our surrounding districts.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Salinas, I think you hit the nail on the head there, that there is the fear. Are we going to push students out? And that's a real possibility and a question. But there's also the wait, because you are on a 4-day and I can go do that and I can go do that in school and I can go do that in school. We may actually be bringing kids in. And at the end of the day, I spoke with a few of you individually. We're competing against private schools and charters in ways that we have to do that. And the only way to do that is to not raise the bar as far as, hey, we're really, really good at what we do and we care about you. We got to raise that bar and keep it high. The machinations of how we do that, those are things that are going to change based off of finances, those things, but this can't change. And I think whatever the board decides, we're going to keep that there. We believe that about kids. What we can do maybe is protect the financial piece of it, given the way that the state funds us.
So I'm a little concerned because we're in a kind of a budget cutting time. We know that. I mean, we've been told that from the state. And yet, if we increase our credits, what's the cost going to be?
Trustee Jennings, Trustee Behrens, nothing. In our system right now, the FTE we have, the only thing that would happen is we would generate more revenue if more kids came in. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it balances in right sizes. The risk is if we don't keep maximizing that, if we don't go to 58 to right size, we will lose. We'll continue to have to cut. I don't think we will. Teachers right now, if we had kids that are taking opens that said, hey, I want to now take exploratory internship or work credit or this, we don't have a teacher cost associated with that. And we can find ways, it's a win-win for them, for us to give them credit, for us to get ADA, and for us to keep our programming for all kids. Those are the things that can happen over time. But I understand that perspective. I don't think that's how it goes. I think it goes the other way. We actually generate keeping kids in school. Remember, we only get funded for a half-time or a full-time.
Right.
So whether they take 2 opens or not, that doesn't impact us because, again, they're there for more than 4 hours on the 2 opens, a religious release and another one. That's possible for our juniors and seniors. If we say, hey, here's what that looks like over time, again, it increases where we have kids involved and we can see better classes. We can see, well, maybe we get more demand that rather than having 3 welding sections, we get 5 welding sections. Those can be the things that start to happen. And those are good challenges to have. To find another welding teacher would be a problem, but it's a good challenge to have. I would like to attack that.
So how did you come up with 58? I mean, why not 55? Or, I mean, I understand the 53 because the extra math, but.
So that was Trustee
Just
Jennings,
curious.
Trustee Behrens. That was just deliberation within the graduation requirement committee and looking at, hey, how does that fit, comparing to other school districts and what's there, and then to right size within our system. That was the product of the communication that they had. We talked about actually going to 59 and adding on an additional English at the freshman level, but there were 2 or 3 English teachers in the room that said, no, I think we're okay. We've taught now for 2 years on the try. We think we can do what they need. And that was refreshing to hear. It wasn't the, I just want mine. It was, no, let's figure out how to navigate this. But that's where the 58 came from. There was robust discussion of 58 or 57. We went back and forth on that. When it really boiled down to it, when you look at how the numbers extrapolate out, if a kid said, I'm going to take 8 religious release sections and my 58, I get to 66, I could still graduate a trimester early. That's 66 is 72. So if I don't take any opens, but I'm going to take my full 58 and my 8 religious release, I'm still a trimester early. We wanted to leave that option again for kids to have that flexibility. It's just the number we landed on. There was no magical, it really was just deliberation.
Trustee Jennings, or Chair Jennings, Trustee Barron's, the question, we did talk a lot about it and thinking about where's the bar at? Do you lower it? Do you raise it? The ask to increase in freshmen around math had to do with the content and making sure kids were more in math classes because teachers feel like right now it's really difficult to get through the content. So that was that extended. There was that discussion. Then we do the 9th grade as well to make sure our kids are really well prepared. And then that scaled back. And then we talked about 57 for a while because they didn't want to raise the bar too high. But ultimately we settled on where are we now in percentage of credits we're requiring with credits that we're offering. And if we now in our new system, what are we are? That's why we settled around that 79, 80% to keep the bar consistent with. That's where 58 came up with. But it could be a variety. You guys have the opportunity to do a variety as you have some options on there.
One last thing with a policy, if the board chooses to do something different, I'll have to bring a draft back and totally happy to do that. Just wanted to be clear. The reason I drafted that was if you went there, I wanted to make sure the language of the state requirements was in there so the board could see that. And I hope that satisfies really Trustee Ben's question from December, but at least we had that in front of us so we could see what it looked like. And then again, tiering with the language in the policy says the class that the fall of 26. So it's this incoming freshman. And then we have a plan to adapt for our kids that are already at high school age and navigating through. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Trustees, I will entertain a motion. We have one.
So I'm of 2 minds. I understand the idea of if we require more classes, it will discourage students from graduating excessively early, which will provide them with better foundations and opportunities and all that stuff, and make sure that we have the reimbursement in terms of hours and credits and all that stuff from the state. So I understand that. It's like you need to, take something, explore something, learn something outside your bubble. I also understand we have multiple districts around us that the requirements are very different. The opportunities are also different. And I don't know that if we increase the requirement that it will decrease the opportunity. It sounds like we're still offering all these opportunities, which would be the draw. But I do understand, basically my takeaway was if right now, because the students are taking more classes in a year and more classes overall, the graduation requirements have decreased relative to the number of classes that students must take during their time here. And so increasing that graduation requirement would just be bringing it into balance with the classes that they're currently taking over a 4-year period. It would be the same equivalent as it was before we went to the 4-day Tri-6 model. And so that doesn't give me particular heartburn in the fact that it's the same percentage, it's the same balance. I think there may be some sticker shock from kids and parents when they see that number, which just means that we have to actually communicate what the implications are and why it is this way. And that may ease some of that and mitigate any people who may want to go elsewhere. But I just really think that we're going to have to work out some of the finer details if we do increase that graduation requirement so that we don't have kids who strike out at the beginning of a year and lose a year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess it's about a 13% increase in total credit. So, I mean, obviously we're offering them more as well. I have a huge concern with the desirable electives. I just don't want kids taking things to take things because
right.
They need another elective and
Like
Like
10
I said,
10
10 PE classes.
10 PE classes, right? If they don't want to, it's just a huge concern. I feel there may be some other avenues that we could all
We
look
could
at
explore.
to help make things more secure before we just add credits.
And I do think that breaking math into smaller chunks and spreading it out over a year. So since we have the trimesters, breaking the semester classes, the 2 semester classes into 3 trimester classes makes sense. And I think doing that for Math 1 and Math 2 really will help our kids get a better understanding of these mathematical concepts and then be able to apply them better. But again, what happens if you miss B? You're not ready for C, because math does tend to be more linear and build off of each other than other courses.
Sure.
And I could see doing that. I mean, some of our colleges have said that, our math students are low.
Yeah.
So, I could see doing that, that does make sense to do the 3. But I agree with you, just figuring out what our electives are before we just jump into it, find out.
Right. There are 3 options in the proposed board packet. So if someone would like to make a motion, we don't have to. It's entirely up to you guys.
Can we see how this year goes and table it? I mean, we had the last block schedule, and then we had data from last year where those numbers were falling. I mean, it's just a thought.
See what happens in May.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think it's safe and a good idea to go with the option 2 as listed in the board packet, where we increase the math, right? So we break the 2 semester math classes into 2 trimester math classes, right? And have those additional math credits integrated into that, because that'll help for next year. But I think the rest we could wait and discuss at a later time. I don't know that the urgency is at this moment. We could look at it again, but the problem is they're building the schedule for next year. So if we look at it in the summer, then
oh yeah, it wouldn't be for next year.
Yeah.
And Dr. Russell, so option 2, essentially, that's the topic right now. That would apply to our current freshmen enrolled, correct? And then every following class.
Chair Jennings, no, I believe it's the incoming, so not the current freshmen, it's those that would be coming in, so it'd be 8th grade moving in.
Chair James, Dr. Russell, it actually would be this year's freshman. Math 2 would be 3 of 3 for them.
Oh, okay.
But Math 1 would just be 3 of 3 for the incoming freshmen and moving forward that way. If that's where you go. So, and our point with doing that would be so that if not, we're waiting one more year to tier up for Math 2, and that the conversation was to get those on the same path to go that way. So that it would be this year's current freshmen. Next year, the predominance of them are taking Math 2. So they would actually go to 7 math credits, not 8, if that makes sense.
I
Oh, okay.
recall freshmen were 3 of 3 on some. Were they on some of the courses?
Chair Jennings, that was true last year, and we moved away from that with particularly science and working that through. And then again, the reason we moved away from that was the graduation requirement and looking at that. And I appreciate the idea of waiting and thinking. I would suggest we are 2 years into that now. So kids that are in high school, 2 years of they're halfway done. So if that change again, because then we're maybe class of 31 or 32. So we're even further out from the line in that. And some of the changes do have to be adopted on the class of 28 from just those state requirements. So however the board goes on that. But again, I think by the end of this year, we're halfway done with this cohort of kids. And so thinking that through as far as where that would go.
I guess I do have a question then, though. The state requirement for the future readiness project, where was it that I saw it? Was it in your presentation? Because I'm not seeing it in the draft where it was talking about it being integrated into the senior English 4 part of things. So if we're just building the future readiness project into existing things in the state civic exam into the government classes, then we wouldn't need to worry about those changing ones. The only other ones that we would need to worry about would be the technology credits. They would need an additional technology credit for the digital literacy. No.
Chair Jennings, Trustee Benz, we've already adapted BCA to meet that. So we're not adding on one. We've just retooled what we actually teach in BCA in conjunction with talking with the State Department that our class already meets that digital literacy requirement. So we align to those standards. So we're retooling what that is. And that's what that retool that. And in policy, it would be really advantageous to not say it's going to be taught in the English class in case something functionally happens the other way. So it was my presentation correct, but it was not in the policy draft. So
I understand. I'm just trying to understand if we vote to increase the graduation requirements to include the additional Math 1 and Math 2 credits up to 53, that does not affect any of the new requirements from the state in terms of the digital learning or the future readiness project or civics exam, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we would need to have 2 motions then. We would need to have the motion to increase the graduation requirements if we're going to want to bring the math credits up by 2. And we would need a motion to redraft that graduation requirements, policy 2700, to reflect the state requirements.
Chair Jennings, trustees, I believe the option 2 would move policy 2700 forward to a second reading at the next regular meeting, so that those would be highlighted. Those edits would be in the second reading.
Okay, so I see the state mandated changes to the NSA requirements. Okay, understood. Okay, thank you.
If that's the option.
Can I just make one more comment about the way I think they've tiered this, like looking at option 1, is when you talked about sticker shock for parents and students, the students that would be required to do all 58 credits are currently in middle school.
Yeah.
So they would know no different. Like they would come in under this plan not thinking, oh, I started as a freshman with this, and now I have to add all this more in. They're going to start their journey knowing what those requirements are. I don't think it will be as big of a sticker shock.
Yeah, except for the freshman who might be a 5-year freshman, 5 years senior, 5th year senior.
Maybe.
But yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
And just for clarification, any remedial classes that are built into the schedule would go towards the student's elective total. So they wouldn't miss those credits. I mean, they would decrease the opportunity to take a different elective credit, but they would still be. So if little Billy failed math 1A first trimester, and little Billy took math 1B second trimester plus a math lab to remediate whatever he missed in first trimester, he would get 2 credits, one for the lab as an elective, one for the class, the next math class. And
But
hopefully he would get.
I think they said that they would remediate the portions that they didn't pass, like in the summer. It wouldn't be a whole entire, I don't think, an entire class and elective. So yes, they would move on. Then they would make up just the portions that they failed. Yes, the standards.
Right.
And so that would still leave them open for their electives during the next school year if they wanted, if they were wanting the religious release or they're in the marching band or whatever. It's not going to take that away from them, provided they pass that in summer school.
Chair Jennings, Trustee Salinas, Trustee Bidens. Yes. What would likely happen if we added on a math lab for a student? Yes, we can give them elective credit. The problem is if they failed math 1A, they've got to get that credit somehow. So if we offer that credit in the elective, then it counts as the math, not the elective. If we give them an elective math lab because they're a student who, hey, I got a 61 and I passed and I got a 61 here, and teachers go, hey, we need to support their math skill, we could add on a required, hey, here's an elective that is academic in nature, but it's elective, and we still keep you getting the required courses and an elective credit. That would be different than, I'm not doing that remediation course, I'm just doing the recovery and credit recovery or summer school. But those are options, and again, I put that in the recommendation. That's where we're wanting our high schools to get so that they can see coming in 8th grade, if a student was ISAT significantly below basic, if they weren't successful in their math course, rather than dumping them into math 1 without support, we would have conversation with that parent of, hey, they're going to take math 1 and we need a math, almost like a study skills center. They're not qualified on an IEP. We're not providing service per se, but we are building things to support what that looks like. That's how, again, back to that care model, that's how we get kids to graduate. That's how we bolster their skills. And we've been creative with ways we've done that in multiple ways throughout our system for decades. But that would be something that could help us and get them an elective credit. We haven't done that in the past. That would be the thing, again, if we open up that section, do it that way, we could get them an elective credit. So
How many electives do they currently get? 14?
Chair Jennings, Trustee Barron, 16. The increase would be to 21 total electives. Again, and when you think about the scope of that, it's about 1 more elective a year, and we went from 16 options to 18. So we're not even taking all the additional 2 options in the recommendation. It's 5 total.
Okay, well, I'm just going to get it started because this is one that I feel comfortable. I would be comfortable, and then we can go from there. So I move that we approve the state mandated changes to the NSD graduation requirements policy 2700 and the addition of an additional math 1 and an additional math 2 credit for a total of 53 credits.
Okay.
I would be comfortable with that.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
No. Aye.
Okay, motion fails. We have another motion.
I'm of the opinion that it will do more good than it will do harm. With anytime you make change, it's hard, no matter what it is. And there's a learning period and adjusting period. And we are going to have some pushback. And I think we're going to have some parents and students that might be excited about, as we said, raising the bar. I think that's a great goal to have for the Nampa School District and to kind of be the pioneers in this, that we're going to do this. We expect this of our students. And I think we have the teachers and staff in place to help make that successful. If you're open for a motion, I'm going to make a motion.
I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I move that we approve the changes to the NSD graduation requirements from the NSD Graduation Requirement Review Committee for a total of 58 credits as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails.
It's not that I'm saying we can't get there, I'm just not there.
Sure. So,
And then the last option is just to keep the same graduation requirements that we currently have, and then just update the state mandated language.
so just for clarification, if we were to propose that motion and it were to pass, it doesn't mean that we can't come forth with a future plan, right? It's just simply
Right, but it's just
a
at this
version of
moment.
tabling it. Would
Yeah.
I be under the correct assumption there?
I voted no on option 2 because I feel optimistic about, what did I just say? I voted no on option 2 because but if we're not going to pass option 1, I think we at least need to pass the math. And so I feel,
So I will entertain a motion.
Because we can still talk about it
Correct.
further. Okay. I move that we approve the state mandated changes to the NSD graduation requirements policy 2700 and the addition of an additional math 1 and an additional math 2 credit for a total of 53 credits.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. And before we vote, do we want anything discussion wise?
So
Can I get
I
clarity? I
think,
just want to
yeah.
make sure that it's option 2 that you're.
Yes.
You're voting on
Yes.
option 2.
Yes.
Correct.
My apologies,
So you're
Chrissy.
good. I just.
I
have a
just-
lot of minutes
yeah,
with different votes
yeah.
that I want to make sure I have the right.
Yeah, I think this preserves our ability to go back and look at more specifics like Chair Jennings was talking about, but still gives that additional math support. After all the discussion that we've had, I'm comfortable with either option 1 or option 2. Option 3, of course, is just holding the status quo. So I'm fine. I'm on board with option 2.
was there a second
Should
to
we
that
vote?
yet?
There was,
I
yep, we're just open for discussion, so we can take a vote if there's no further discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes 3-1. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time on that one. We will be moving on to our information items and reports. I'm just going to turn this time over to Dr. Russell.
Chair Jennings, trustees, moving on to our finance, we have Mr. Dewey is going to come share a quick update on our financial report.
All right, guys. It's a long one for you guys. Good times. All right. So I know I keep saying it over and over again. We got our forecast. We know we're a little low. Looks like we're going to do. I do want to remind you guys, our best 28 week doesn't really get official until the end of the fiscal year. We still kind of know what we are, and we still kind of we feel that the revenues and expenses are going to be within line of where we need to be. So if those come in a little higher, we'll definitely let you guys know earlier than not on those, because this is when it starts to hit. Some of these things. My hope is that the air conditioning is not needed by the storm that here's outside. We at least won't need it tomorrow. So those type of things are, what can easily start increasing our costs exponentially, and those type of things. Go to the next page, please. I know that's really small. I now that I look at it from here, it's really small. This is literally the exact same thing I had last week. Last month. The only difference I have is that we do have some updates. We just got our title numbers in, our federal numbers in. We got a little decrease in comparison to millions, 55,000 decrease in Title I and a $46,000 decrease in Title II. We did get a great increase and really it shows that it's in all of our migrant LAP and that, but it's really state LAP. What had happened, I got some word, is they had stopped at the state level buying a set of curriculum that's no longer needed. So they've now allocated that back out. So it's not like we've done anything differently. Our kids are still the same. We've got a very high LAP population as it is. We just got more of it because that they stopped something at the state and it's just got more allocation to us. Yes.
And the Title I and Title II, are those federal or state?
Everything we're talking about is federal this time.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The state LAP is a match required for this,
Got it.
for the
Okay.
LAP side of the other. But it is a big one that our federal programs manages for that.
And-
And in community schools, we have no increase.
And the reduction in Title I and Title II, is it due to a drop in qualifying population, or is it just a cut in the funding from the federal level, they just cut it. Does that make sense?
I wish I could tell you I knew the formula really, really well, but every time I think I understand the formula and where those poverty guidelines come from, Dr. Russell might be able to explain a little bit better than I, but we've been fighting that for a little bit and they just said, this is what it is. It is what it is.
Chair Jennings, Trustee Benz, it is from it has to do with a combination of census data, the overall amount of wealth within the city, and then also has to do with the free reduced lunch population. So some of that does have to do with decreases, but primarily has to do with the census data of our city and how that's judged. And it is a complicated formula. We've been going down again pretty much every year as well. So to us, seeing that 55,000 is actually a pretty good number. It's not with a 3-digit number, which would be detrimental.
What's happened to us in years past.
And-
Yes, exactly.
And when you say it's the census of the city, there are big portions of the city that do not fall within our district boundaries. Is that taken into account? Is it just within our district or the city?
My understanding is they understand where our boundaries are within
Okay.
the context of everything else. And so, and that's, the weird thing is like some of this goes to the national level. And this is what Idaho gets. And then at that point in time, it's how Idaho distributes as another formula on top of that. So it's not just one thing, it's another. And then we have our own free and reduced numbers that then get allocated to the schools a little bit more. That's why I'm saying it's, I'm sure if I was to become a Title I expert, I might be able to figure it out. And if Niall was here, he'd probably be able to give us even more time.
Yeah, Chair Jennings and trustees, if you'd like, we can have a presentation on actually how the formula is all calculated. If you'd like.
So that's not a significant piece of the pie then? 55,000?
I mean,
It is-
55
it is
grand,
not.
that's about, a little less, like 3/4 of a teacher that we wouldn't be able to afford within there. It's not that we have some ability to roll over some funds every year anyway. We have upwards of 15% that we can roll. So basically what that does is it brings our rollover a little less if we, that we might have to dip into that a little bit more. So
Chair
it's not
Jennings,
a
trustees,
killer.
one other thing too, with federal money, which is complicated as well, is sometimes it's reallocated in the fall. And so there is times where that number could be a little bit larger. So it might be better for us to talk about in the fall.
Yep.
That's the number that we are predicted at right now. But they can come back and they could adjust you upward.
I've
They
seen
could adjust you downward.
I've seen downward
which
as
is
well.
a terrible way to budget, but it's just how school budgets are presented. And so we could lose more potentially. Usually that's not a large amount. It's usually the 15 to 25, 30,000 more. But we have to kind of take that into consideration. We also have some carry forward money that we often use to kind of buffer some of that. We don't always try to spend down to our last dime. We always try to make certain we make some over because we don't know how big of a cut we're going to have. It's just kind of how we budgeted. But federal dollars is really hard to predict.
And to put it in perspective, we've been losing Title I dollars for years. I think when I first got here, we were like 4.6 million, and now we're down to, I think, 2.7. I mean, so reality is, and our population legitimately hasn't really changed, if that makes sense. It's really the city's population has grown, and it hasn't been kids like our population of true, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a weird formula that's kind of hitting us as the city has just gotten more rich. It has provided us a little bit of pain that way. And 55,000, as Dr. Russell said, is actually a small amount that we were actually considering it was going to be a lot more. So that's very helpful. The other area I want to focus on here, it says that, we get a 14% increase in health insurance costs, but I really want to tout why this is a big deal for us. Because we remember we went to the state health insurance plan a while ago. And it's a big increase. I mean, it's going from 14,130 up to 16,170 or something. So it's a pretty big increase, $2,000 increase in cost, right? But the state has also said, hey, since you did this, and we're one of the few that did it, we're going to give you more money for it. So it really covers a lot of that excess cost that we have. It does affect us in some of our funds like our K3 lit and stuff like that basically is a finite number. And now it's going up again. So like our title funds and all that, there's a finite number. It's going to hit those. But the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is when we would get increases in our cost in the past, what we would do is we'd go through and say, okay, how do we keep this cost down? So we'd always raise premiums for people. We'd always raise other things. We'd lower our benefits that our employees would have. One of the things the state did not do is they didn't change any of the rates for the employees. So all employees, so the fact that, in other worlds that we're not going to get much increase for anything, our admin and our classified, really, we don't get any money for that this year. So that's going to hurt. At least our employees didn't see a pay decrease because their health insurance premiums have gone up and the value of those have gone down. And I think that's a really big thing that Nampa is one of the few in the state. I know of a couple other districts, large districts, that are seeing 25% increases, and they only got 10% back from the state. So it's a big hit for a lot of districts. And even though it does cost us more, it actually has been something I think has been a really good thing for our district that we're going to maintain for a long time. So you want to go to the next one? All right. So here's a couple of things we talked about a little bit. Estimated enrollment decline. Still, we're looking at about 180. Looking to see what the new charter might do to us, but we're not 100% sure what we can understand there. So we're still looking at that. So still looking at about 8 reduction in units. And we do have some additional money in the supplemental levy that's going to go towards the career ladder. And I have a couple slides on the career ladder here in a second to kind of explain that a little better. And again, I hate to say it, but we're not anticipating any raises for administrators or classified. There's no money that the state has given us. And across the state, a lot of the state have actually reduced FTE because the states cut them. Not only did they get not a raise, then they basically also, so we kind of got lucky that it's at least flat, but it's never good for our people to not get anything. And so that's kind of a bummer. If we can find something, we're going to try to get there. And I don't see it yet. And again, because of our loss in our units and they didn't give us more money in our operationals, we're still looking at 200,000 at least funding reduction. And none of our insurance is getting, none of our other stuff is getting any cheaper. Our software is not. I don't think our power bill is getting any cheaper or any of that kind of stuff. So we're still trying to work through how to make some cuts there. The next one is, if you want to go to the next one. So I just kind of remind you, just a quick snapshot. This is this year's snapshot about how the formula works and then the revenue size. I'm not going to really go much deeper into this. I just kind of remind you, there's a lot of different sections here that really matters. And that those orange sections are really the ones that are most important because that's based on our staff and where they fit on the career ladder. Okay. So what it is the average, the weighted average of all of our teachers, and then teachers, pupil personnel, which is like our counselors and those type of people. So that's how that calculation has worked. We get so many units as staff allowance to us based on the formula of how much they're going to pay us. And it kind of goes down the way there. And so really by us moving a little bit closer to the career ladder, what we tried to do last year, and that it really helps everything else down the road. And that's what we're kind of looking for. If you go to the next one, and I just really put this in for guidance. This is the career ladder. It's the exact same thing. So in years past, what they did for us revenue wise, they also put a COLA on top of every single one of those. So our teachers, if they were to move, say we're on completely on the career ladder, or revenue wise, completely on the career ladder, we would not only just get, if somebody went from a residential 1 to a residential 2, we'd also get a COLA on top of that, which is 3 to 5%. This year, they're basically saying, well, you can move by statute, but we're not going to give you any additional money on the career ladder. So it gives us a little bit of money to provide, but the other side of that, they're also moving on the other end too. So it's that's the negotiation stuff we're looking at, but this is how it's actually funded. And that's the mechanism we're eventually trying to get to and to make sure we're kind of 1-to-1, if not more, for where we're at. So I try not to go too deep into that because there's a lot more involved in that for sure. You want to know the next one? And again, this next steps, we're still looking of what reductions we have. We're looking at all levels, not just teachers. We got some administrative looks at and classified reduction as well. Operations and how to move some monies around to get off the general fund. We're still trying to make up some of those. We're still looking at all of our other funds to try to see what kind of things do we not need anymore. Everything's great when the money's available, but now we're getting into a shoestring budget. We're now having to say, that's great that we really, really, really like that, but it's maybe something we can't afford anymore. I wish my own finances would do that, but unfortunately I never do it quite as well as that. And then we are shifting some things from the general fund. So we got some additional money for like the levy and that kind of stuff that we're able to move some money. And we're getting, because on our maintenance side, that's another example, is we got more. Remember that 521 money that we just been sitting in the bank, and Courtney likes to spend it a little bit more than I like him to spend it, but it's still gaining some really good interest. And we got a little bit extra that we were anticipating for that. So we're able to move some costs over so they're not seeing the hit, and we're able to help the general fund out a little bit because that money is still out there making this a good investment money. So, we're still just, I hate to say it every year, it's cuts. I mean, if we didn't keep losing kids, then we'd be in a great situation. But honestly, the only one I've heard in the whole state of Idaho that's actually growing is Valley View. And even then, when I talk to them, they are actually looking at like maybe a modest, if not just a flat on their budget, just because they're worried about trying to progress much bigger than that and have a hole in their budget because no one's seeing, even the big guys. I mean, I think Boise said 700, 800 potentially.
Yeah. Boise's going down. I think West Ada is flat, if not going down a little. Valley View is the only one. The state as across the state lost a certain amount of units, meaning that they expected a certain amount. The kids didn't come in, so we're seeing just less and less. And it has to do with birth rates as well. The state's looking at it, but we don't see it stopping. So I think it's going to be something just across our state for the next few years or so.
Yeah, and the unfortunate what's actually really hitting us is it's on our elementaries. So our elementaries the last 4 or 5 years have been 800, 850 kindergartens. So we have this year we have a big 4th and 5th grade. And with our 5th grade to go into middle school next year, and we'll have one more big 4th grade, about 1,000 kids. And then after that, every one of our class sizes will be, about 850 or so. And that's a big decline when we were used to it. Like back when I first got here, our kindergartners were 1,100. And when they get in, then they tend to stay unless they move away, obviously. But it does make everything a lot smaller, and it does make us have to look in the future. Okay, how are things going to go when we do that kind of stuff? And it makes for hard decisions across the board. And I think that's all I got.
Questions at all, trustees?
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
guys.
Berry. Thank you, Mr. Berry. We're going to have Mr. Stauffer come forward and share some verbal updates around transportation, and then after facilities update.
I thought it was raining out there. Just like
Cleaners are behind us. We can hear them.
Chair
Sorry
Jennings,
about that.
trustees, no worries. I was hoping it was rain too, but
coming.
for transportation, we just want to give the quick update. Things are still progressing as we're gathering our information and starting to plan for the summer, which is acquiring the bus routes and making sure that we plan for next year. The plan is still, as we presented prior, we'll have to you in July the routes for approval for the board so that we'll have that to be able to publish out to our parents and make sure that they have the right information from the beginning of the school year. So we are in that process. Summer school is also being built as well. And we're right on track with all the timelines that we have been talking about prior.
Mr. Stauffer, facilities?
All of our projects are on timelines that we have been talking about, which is good to hear. We have not started yet the Skyview project as we're waiting for the school year to end, but all of the projects are moving along quite well. Everything is again staying within the budgets that we had been discussing, and so we're excited about the movement that we're having with each one of those projects.
Skyview's they're going to be able to put it in that window during the summer months.
Chair Jennings, yes, that was one of the things that we worked on. They're doing some cursory things. So we're doing exploratory, making sure that we can find any of those unknown entities. A fun side note is that we have 4 different plans for Skyview that are all different, and none of them are what we're finding inside. So we are still working through that. But those are the things that we're working on now, so that will help our improvement once we actually get into the work that we'll be ready to do it. So yes, right now nothing has changed from that. All the ordering has taken place since the board had approved the Skyview project. So all of the things that we needed, such as the windows, the doors, which typically have a longer lead time, have all been ordered in preparation for us to have them. And so far, everything is still lining up in our schedule.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Trustees, next item has to do with our enrollment report that you'll see every month. If you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer that.
Good.
No questions. Superintendent's report, then there's a couple of items to discuss in our superintendent's report. The first one has to do with our graduation rate. I'm going to ask Tyler if you go ahead and bring that forward on the screen. So we did hear from Columbia High. It was a great honor to have Columbia High and come and discuss the great work that they've done and being recognized. Again, can't understate that enough. But our graduation rate is something we'd also like to celebrate. We have worked very hard since COVID to increase our graduation rate. Now, COVID was one of our lowest points. I think we were around 74%. I'm going to have you look at that bottom graphic first rather than the top. And if you look, you'll see our 3 comprehensive high schools right now are at or above the state average when it comes to our graduation rate, which is just incredible work for our teachers and our counselors and our students and the parents supporting them to raise us in 4 years from 74% up to those numbers. And Columbia High right now is our highest achieving one. And really proud of that, but also all those schools are doing great. And of course, we do have our programs that we mentioned that do help support our kids and make sure that they do graduate. So Union High, Napa Academy, Nova, you'll see their graduation rates there are lower than the state, but they also take some of those students who, as we've discussed tonight, many of those students do fall behind or come in behind. But we do a great job of catching those kids up. And sometimes those kids also graduate in year 5 or year 6, just depending on where they are. The state doesn't take that into account. They just kind of put us where they are. But that system, the reason our comprehensive high schools are high is because of the work that Union, Napa Academy, and Nova are doing to kind of support those. Our schools are doing a really nice job saying this student needs a little more support. So we're going to move them into a program, which has helped increase those rates. So.
And a quick question. So how do our alternative schools compare to alternative schools around the state with the graduation rates?
Yeah, Trustee Chair Jennings, Trustee Benz, that's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm happy to look into that and can bring some information back on that. I'm not sure. The graphic on top of it, if Tyler can bring that back up, it's really wonky. So basically the first column is the Napa School District and the second column is the state of Idaho. I know it looks like state of Idaho is under the first column. Just ignore that.
Slide that over.
Slide it over. So if you look at our graduation rate, we are just a hair under the state. And again, that's because that includes all of our alternative programs as well. But as we know, our comprehensive high schools are outperforming the state quite a bit. But one thing we were really proud of, though, is our Hispanic Latino population is right now above state average in graduation. So our EL program and all the work our federal programs are doing there is doing a great work and helping making sure those students are above. So it's great to be sure that we're proud of that work. And if you look at our LEP and economically disadvantaged, so our students who come from those areas are outperforming the state as well. So some just some really encouraging data. 4 or 5 years ago, it was really depressing to look at this data, but we're really excited that our schools are performing so well and really happy about that. Just proud of the work they did. The last item, superintendent's report, is around our job fair that we held a couple of weeks ago over at the Civic Center. It was very successful. We had over 100 and some folks come and did a lot of interviews, particularly around elementary is where we had most of them. We did have a few secondary, not as much as we had hoped. Found some special ed, which was great. We have been working with Boise State and trying to build a stronger relationship with them. We had 60 or so of their students come over, and that's helpful because that's a pipeline for our teaching degree and allows us to get in there as well. So really appreciate our HR team for putting that on. Yeah, it was just great to see that as well. So that's
Very
it.
good. Thank you, Dr. Russell. Possible agenda items. Obviously, we had that policy 1530 for an edited version and a second read. I don't recall off the top of my head, will our board meeting be after our graduations next month?
The Monday before.
Monday
The
before.
Monday before. Okay. So we will have a full week that week, trustees. But it's always a fun week. Anything else we can add to the agenda from this evening? Okay. Anything else, Dr. Russell? Okay. Okay. At this point, the meeting is adjourned.